Welcome back to the Weekly Buzz, everybody. It is March Madness time. We are really excited. We've got a couple special guests. Again, we've got Jalen Red, Jay Red from the football team. And Jay Red, who else do we got on studio today?
All right, y'all. Today, we got the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who has molded us players into great men that we are in today. A great leader, a great husband, father, and a guy who has guided the football team, the football program of Defiance, into winning for seasons we haven't seen before. And today we got Coach Bill Nickell with us.
I appreciate that. And you guys are the ones doing the work, man. It's very little to do with me, but I appreciate that.
And we appreciate you, Coach.
That was one heck of an introduction. And, to kind of give a little history, right, of where the Defiance College Football program was and kind of where it's at now. You guys can live this underdog story a little bit.
Yeah, we have.
I remember you came in, it was some dark days. The team really struggled, and where you guys are at now, you're really competitive. It's been great to see you guys kind of change and kind of morph the culture of that team over the last couple of years. What's it been like for you guys as players, right? Because you guys are both players under Coach.
Yeah, I think it's been way more disciplined than it used to be. We used to, before Coach was here, we used to never have lifts that were mandatory. You just kind of did your own thing.
Okay.
But now we have mandatory lifts pretty much every week, so yeah. I like it.
It goes back to one of those things that we're going to talk about hopefully a little bit later on, right, is how do we, mindset of the underdog, and it's taking care of the little things, right? If I do those little things each day, it helps me to grow and get better so that I can, be a little more competitive. So,
Yeah.
all right.
For me, it's good because you got a head coach that believes in the team, not just his specific players or just the offense. It's everybody in general. I think what separates Coach Nickell is he makes sure he gets everybody involved. It's no sit out person. Everybody's gonna feel wanted, whether you play, whether you start, whether you just a bench player. You're involved in some type of way. So I think that's just good for everybody because you feel wanted on the team, and I think that's why we've been able to win.
You're good. You're getting ahead of me again, right? That's another one of these things, right? The keys to the underdog is I can't do it alone, right? I gotta have the whole team with me and trusting in all those people around me for this thing to be successful.
Yep.
I got one more thing.
All right.
I think one other thing is a lot of the old coaches we had usually built themselves up. They made themselves the centerpiece, but with Coach Nickell, it's more we're building a team here.
Yeah.
A team effort type of community type thing.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, all right, we kind of got ahead of ourselves a little bit. This is the first time Coach Nickell has been on the show. We need to get some background information on you. Who are you? How did you get here to Defiance College? You've been here. This is your third year?
Yes. So this season will be my third season, our third season as our staff, our crew taking over here. So most recently, prior to me coming back home, because this is home for me, I grew up in Salina, Ohio, right down the road, and both my parents actually graduated from D.C., so I've known about Defiance College my whole life.
That's awesome.
So it's a phenomenal opportunity to come back home and rebuild this program and put something together that everybody's going to be proud of. But prior to me coming back home, I was at UAPB, which is FCS school that competes in the SWAC. Prior to that, I've been all over a little bit. Prior to that, I was at Lake Erie College up in Cleveland. Also spent a bunch of time over at Lock Haven University in Pennsylvania, Kent State, and I got started at Urbana University. So,
okay.
I played at Urbana University, played offensive line there in college, and then was granted the opportunity to get right into coaching after college, after I graduated, and fell in love with it and never looked back. So.
Fantastic. Well, it has been wonderful to have you on campus these last couple of years. Really breathed some new life and fresh air into the program. So it's been great.
I appreciate that. I love being here.
So, all right, we started talking about this whole psychology of the underdog. What is this underdog thing? Help us to kind of understand this, Brandon and Jay Red. What makes an underdog to you guys?
Underdog is it's basically somebody that doesn't believe in you. Kind of you haven't been winning before. You've never been known to win. You don't have anybody that's special. You're technically underdog. If you're in a space where everybody else is just this top tier team and nobody knows nothing about you, you're the underdog basically.
Gotcha. Anything else on your mind, Brandon?
Underdog is somebody basically that nobody expects to win, or don't cheer them on at all because they don't expect them to win.
Yeah.
Don't expect, no expectations.
And we think about that a lot in sports, but I think that's true in our personal lives too. We've all kind of been in that position where we've been the underdog, right? Where the chips are down, backs against the wall, nobody's maybe kind of believing in us, and we kind of adopt that underdog kind of mindset mentality. And we think about it a lot. What got us kind of really thinking about the topic for the show was March Madness and all of the upsets that kind of happen, and really in the sports world. And we're going to talk about those. That's going to be our top 5 a little later on, right, Brandon? Your favorite part of the show. We're going to talk about top 5 upsets, maybe in March Madness, maybe in sports in general. But how do you get yourself up? And that's one of the reasons we wanted to have you on, Coach, is how do you do that as a team or as a person? How do you get yourself up when the chips are stacked against you?
I tell you, the first thing I think understanding the underdog role is realizing that it is only a perception, and it's a perception from the outside versus what you truly know what you're capable of, and it's a lot easier with a team because you have a built-in support system.
Yeah.
But first thing is just understanding that it's only a perception, and then it takes a lot of, I want to say, self-reflection or even coaches in a certain degree for our aspect of being able to build on your strengths and making you aware of what your strengths are, and being able to focus on those things, maximizing what you are good at. You know, it's only a perception that you're outmatched. It doesn't mean you necessarily are. And it's one thing I talk to these guys all the time too. It's about, don't listen to the noise. It's all about us and just us.
Yep.
And together we're able to, and we still are, but even individually, you can build something strong.
I talk to students about that all of the time, right? That line between those players that we perceive are really great, or those even our peers in our classroom that really have a lot of ability, and everybody else is probably a whole lot smaller than what we think it is. We think that, oh gosh, the person's got so much more aptitude than I do.
100%.
That's not really true. Like, you wouldn't be sitting here at college, whether it's on the team or in that classroom, if we didn't know it. You couldn't absolutely do it.
Absolutely.
It's getting you to believe in yourself as much as we believe in you guys as students and athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. How do we, and as a whole, hopefully we get to take a deep dive into that area. We could do a whole show on that. How do I kind of develop that kind of grit and resilience and believe in ourselves? What's been your guys' experience as players? Have you guys had that?
Yeah. I think for me personally, like just starting off, it goes way back to high school. Like, I wasn't a guy that was like looked at at all. Like we had so many good athletes down south back in Memphis, where we had ranked players and just guys who were already known in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And you already get that underdog or like doubted feeling, and you kind of looking within yourself, worry about everybody else, what they're doing. Like you kind of like self-doubt yourself because like, how can I reach that level? They already there, and I'm still down here. So
Right.
I think for me, and this ties into just getting up here and making a name for myself, I think sometimes it's just like what we say, you just got to worry about yourself. And you got to like look at your strengths and your weaknesses. Like just because this person may do something good, you got something in yourself that you can do better than them. So like just try to build on that. So I think it's just like you got to have that like Coach said, self-reflection.
Yeah.
And then just work hard. Working hard is like a big thing for me. For sure.
I remember when you first came up, like as a freshman, you made like all conference?
Yeah.
How did you get there? So you came in, did you feel like, okay, I'm a highly touted kind of freshman coming in, or?
No, I came in just wanting to play because like I knew it was already like a senior at the safety spot, and I just knew like I just wanted to play. Like I wasn't even worried about what I would get as like an accolade. My thing was like, okay, I done came up here, I put in work over the summer. Now how do I get to the point where like people actually see me just not as a freshman but as an actual player? So it's kind of like just what you want. Like you got to know what you want, and then you got to work for it.
Was it a little bit of that kind of this underdog mentality of like, I feel disrespected, like I know I'm better than the people give me credit for, and maybe I didn't get some of those opportunities. I'm going to use that, right, to kind of light that fire under me.
Exactly. That's exactly how it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's how do we. This is the part that always fascinates me is how do we instill that? How do we get that in ourselves, or how do we instill that in others? Because you can go one of two ways. You can do like what you did, J-Red, where you use that as a fire, or I can just kind of check out. Right? No, people don't believe in me, and I just go the other way. How do you, as a coach, like how do you start to light that under players?
I think the biggest focus, and we're lucky that we're able to, in the football world, we film practice. You're getting constant feedback all the time, and you're able to reflect and show this is what you're doing well, this is what we need to continue working on, and that builds confidence. Confidence is about that preparation, and it's about also putting yourself in hard situations. So, okay, maybe I'm not there yet, but I'm closer, and just that constant improvement, those little victories matter so much in the development of a human being and also a football player.
I would definitely agree. Brandon?
Oh, God. I mean, I kind of have like I have something like what you was talking about, but like with my mentality when I was a freshman, like COVID hit me really hard over high school. Like I gained 90 pounds.
Wow.
I was like 380 pushing, and I was like the big dude, the athletic. So I had a lot to fix. So over these past few years, I've been just working on changing the mentality behind it. And coach here tells me I get in my head a lot. So I've been working on just stop even thinking.
What do you do? How do you stop thinking and just start doing?
You just blank it. And it's hard to say how to blank your head, but like you just got to stop thinking.
What we try to work on is that next play mentality. Whether it's good, bad, whatever, we're on to the next one. And we try to provide as much immediate feedback as you can get. I think that's important, but it's also regardless of whatever the results were, the process is let's move on to the next one.
Thing.
And that keeps you moving in life and on the football field.
I've heard that in a lot of different ways, that having that short-term memory is kind of the key to success. I got to be able to forget the last play and move on to the next. Whether it was good or bad, I got to stay focused in the present.
Yep.
So, all right. Other things, right, that, this underdog kind of mindset or mentality is this, research has shown when somebody's an underdog, they tend to think a little more creatively. They kind of they become innovators a little bit in their lives. Have you guys seen that on the field? Or like I remember I've seen this before. I'm more of a baseball fan than anything else, but like I think about the Oakland A's, right? And Moneyball. I don't know if you guys know what that is, right? But the Tampa Rays have kind of got their own version of it right now, where it's not like I'm going to go out and get these established stars. They go out and they're constantly flipping their roster over, right? Like somebody comes in and they sell them off to another team or trade them off to another team for more prospects, and they just reload. But it's that thought of innovation. I can't do it the way maybe everybody else does, like the guys that have more resources. I got to do it just a little differently. How do you guys see that play out in your lives, maybe?
I would say probably like an entrepreneurial field, like where people come up with inventions.
Right.
Maybe some people would have thought because they never face the same problems that they do.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lower class person coming up with an invention that somebody that's rich would never understand, or like they would never. It's like a niche type of thing.
Okay. I get you, but I think that's true. It's one of those things like we think about the underdog in the sports world, but it is definitely true in the business world. Think about Netflix. You guys all know Netflix? How did Netflix start? You guys probably don't remember. How did it start?
Because I used to go to Blockbuster.
Yes.
It was like they would mail in your DVDs. And
Yep.
over time, it became like an online. You watch the movie.
They were this little guy, right? And Blockbuster was the big kid on the block.
Oh yeah, I still have my pass.
You still got the pass.
Yeah, I want to get back.
Yep. I was reading something that Blockbuster could have actually bought Netflix for like, I don't know, $50 million at one point. And, I think the CEO kind of felt disrespected. He was like, no, I'm not doing it. And then pretty soon they ended up buying out Blockbuster.
2 years after that.
It was something like, right? That was that underdog, right? We're the little guy. Blockbuster's this mega chain, and then all of a sudden, through the spirit of innovation, like we're going to do it differently. Like we can't be Blockbuster. We're going to do this differently. And the next thing you know, Blockbuster's gone. Like they don't even have that anymore. And Netflix is all over the place. So that spirit of I got to do something a little differently.
Find a way. Find a way to make it happen.
I think that's, again, how do we grow kind of that mindset? What I hear, one of the traps students fall into, both academically and out on the field is, when they know they're not getting the success that they have or that they want, And, the notion of I'm just going to do it harder, right? I'm going to work better. I'm going to, do more of the same thing that kind of got me here. Do you see that too?
100%. Yep.
Yeah. And
You got to find a way to adjust. It's the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So you
Right.
have to be able to adjust. And a lot of that on the field certainly falls into our realm of, okay, well, we need to adjust our individual part
Yeah.
of practice. We need to, find different ways to teach, find different ways to help the student athletes, reach their goals that they're looking for, because a lot of times they just go harder at it
Right.
instead of finding a different avenue to reach their goal.
and that is almost the definition of insanity, right? It's not, it's this notion of, it's not that we don't want you to work hard, but maybe we got to come at it just a little bit differently. I got to attack this problem just a little bit differently. And some of that's trust, right? Because I got to trust the people around me maybe to learn to do things differently. Do you guys see that kind of notion? Like, I'm just going to work harder at it. I'm going to double down kind of on the stuff that I'm doing. Have you seen that with maybe players around you, or maybe you kind of found yourself caught in that same trap?
Yeah, you can definitely get caught in that. It's easy too, but I feel like you always got to have a plan to it. Like working out, you can just work at something, but not having like an agenda or a plan about it. You can really just get caught up in just working, and you just like it's just one of those things. But for me, I had to really like have a plan where I took care of myself as well as putting the work in as well,
Yep.
Because it's like you can get in that notion where you just like burn out. You can work hard for so long and then you don't even see a result instantly because that result may not have been the right time to come yet. So I had to find a way to just work, but also like put aside that work as well and just be myself, realize where I'm at, and then keep going.
Having some balance sounds like. Okay. Which I think is really true for all of us, is having kind of balance, being able to, and not, again, this notion of, working differently doesn't mean that I'm not working hard, right? It just means I'm learning to do things maybe a little differently, attack the problem differently, and that's huge. So, all right, we're kind of getting there with some of this stuff. Belief that you can compete, having those realistic kind of goals. That's another one of these kind of key strategies for this underdog, right? The realistic goals, or can I hang with these guys? And you talked about it a little bit already, Coach, of, that line between, the player that I think is really good and me, maybe it's not as far as I think it is.
100%. The underdog perception, you're not seeing the whole picture, and you're not seeing the whole picture of your opponent either, So everybody that's a fan or everybody outside of whatever you're trying to accomplish, they don't get the full picture. And sometimes we get lost and we don't see the full picture of the opponent or whatever the task is that we're trying to accomplish. So I do think it's important that you have to maximize what you're good at and you have to keep training your weaknesses, but also have a plan to go and attack the opponent's weaknesses too, and put, in our realm, put your best players in positions to go and make plays and be successful.
Yeah.
That's how we attack the problem in our realm.
When I hear that, I think one of the things that I see is that trust in other people.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes I see a lot of students come in and this notion of like, I'm going to do it on my own, and I think that means strength. And kind of I got to let go of that a little bit.
100%. 100%. Nobody accomplishes great things on their own. There's always a support system there in place, and some people have different support systems throughout or whatever, we're talking about a student, you still have your professors, just in the student realm, there's plenty of tutors that are available. Ton of extra help. And then also, in the athletic world, that's why you have coaches, why you have teammates too. Making that connection with somebody else helps you build trust, for sure.
What do you think? Again, a little bit to this underdog mindset. Like sometimes I use that as everybody's against me and the chips are down. It kind of lights that fire under me. But how do I maybe kind of, I don't want to see the coach is against me, right? Or my teammates is against me. Right? I got it. Like we're in this together. Maybe kind of expanding that notion of who is on my team. Mm-hmm. Do you guys see that ever?
Yeah, for sure. Like as an underdog, you can get to the point where you feel like everybody's against you. You can feel like nobody wants you. I've seen teammates before feel like they're not getting their opportunity yet. It's like, oh, coach don't like me, or oh, Coach Nickell. Don't
Right.
I know Coach Nickell's heard it before too, but it's kind of like resources is a big thing. Like, don't just like look within yourself when something's going wrong, but be quick to like blame somebody else. Go to a teammate or go talk to your coach and like see what you can do better. Like, resources are here for a reason. Like, sometimes you got to use what you have at your advantage and not just use it as your blame.
It does, and it's such a fine line between, maybe I want to prove Coach wrong if he's not giving me the starting time that I want, but I can't see him as the enemy, right? Because if I see him as the enemy, now I'm probably going to get checked out and get apathetic.
And that emotional response, typically what I've seen is that's somebody that has kind of separated themselves so much that they haven't even gone to watch extra film or to get clarification on what's holding me back right now.
Yeah.
And then finally reaching a breaking point, then you're able to sit down with that individual once whether they get so emotional that they want to come in and maybe yell at you or be upset, but then we can turn that conversation and show, and typically we're able to move forward and have great results from that. You don't want to see it get to that emotional response, but a lot of times, the connection and the trust happens at different times for different people.
Yeah.
So the sooner that we can build trust and get people to understand we're all rowing in the same direction here, the better for us, for sure.
Yeah. And it's that trust in those folks around us. Maybe that's not going to make every play, right? But as long as I continue to execute, they're going to make enough things happen around me that we're going to be successful as a team. And maybe that's that subtle kind of mind shift that we need to kind of adopt.
100%. They've heard that before.
But that's a big leap to kind of make.
Absolutely. It is.
All right. So that trust in your team, right? Small victories early on. That is huge, when it comes to being that underdog, getting those small victories, early on, whether it's in a class or out on the field. Have you guys seen that? Like, where you come in and you kind of maybe execute a few plays, and then pretty soon we start to get a little bit of momentum build up. Now I kind of believe in myself. You guys had those games?
Oh, yeah.
Just a few?
Yeah, back in high school, did. Yeah, man, yeah. Yeah, it's always the little things. All the little things big up to the big things. Yeah, the big things. We talk about it all the time. It's all the little things that build.
That's why we get the edit button.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's all connected. So I mean, if you do the little things right, you'll do the big things right. So I mean,
it's kind of that execute on the small plays, and I get a little bit of momentum, and then pretty soon, it starts to build up. Did you got a favorite game that you could think of where you saw that, Jalen? Where you guys maybe kind of came in as a little bit of an underdog and the momentum shifted?
Yeah. I got a couple, but probably my first one was coming in was the Bluffton game my freshman year. That was kind of big because they haven't got the hammering over like.
Yes, I remember that.
Okay, something like that. Yeah, that was cool. But just this past year, I think the Hanover game was probably like one of the biggest like underdog like overcomes like games for me because we were away. Hanover was like at the at least number 2 or 1 spot.
Right.
We were still kind of low ourselves, and like nobody was expecting to win that game. Even some of our own supporters, they just thought it was just another game. But I mean, it's just that triumph feeling. Like it just feels good, and like once you're actually in the game and you feel that momentum, it's like you kind of get like more of that fire because you actually start believing it.
I think that is so critical, again, on the field or in the classroom, those small little victories and kind of celebrating them and looking for those victories to kind of get that momentum, and it goes back to this realistic goal. I don't have to, win the game on any particular play. I just need to execute a little bit, have those realistic kind of goals. And pretty soon, maybe I flip the field a little bit or, I get a 3 and out and I start to build some of that. Same thing in the classroom. All right. Hanging around, right, long enough. I just hang on, right? I don't take myself out. You guys seen that in some games too? Where I just kind of hang around and pretty soon maybe the other team makes a mistake or good things just kind of find their way to happen. And it goes back a little bit to that fundamentals, and what maybe I'm working on technique, right? Or, I don't know, any examples you guys can think of from your games?
not on the field, but I can think of stuff in the classroom.
Okay.
Like just hang around extra class, talk to your teacher about some tutoring, stuff like that.
Oh, again, back to those fundamentals, right?
Yeah, to talk to your teacher, get some tutoring, do extra assignments, take some more time on your work. I mean, just hang around in the sense that, like, you're just taking more time. Like, just take a little extra time instead of quickly leaving and all that.
I think, I've seen students, whether it's on the field or in the classroom, sometimes we just check out, right? When I start to feel like I'm an underdog, I'm way down, and then I just stop showing up, right? Whether it's to practice or to the classroom, and, taking care of those little things. I go to class every day.
Yeah, like one of the problems I see is a lot of people who miss class, just keep missing class. Well, at this point, it's too late. I'm like, it's never too late. You can always get the work.
Right. And it's, not digging yourself such a deep hole that now I can't get out, right? I start making those mistakes. I stop showing up to class. I don't turn my assignments in on time. And now all of a sudden the hole is almost too deep and I don't know how to get out. That's a whole different kind of show we'll have to do. All right. One of the things that I love, right, is playing this notion of I got to play with a sense of urgency, but not playing out of control. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. You can definitely get into the point where, like, especially as a defensive player, your emotions get the best of you.
Yes.
You kind of feel like you got to, like, say the ball hasn't come your way all game. You can got to get that instant like feeling or like just that urge to just really knock.
I want to win the game on every play.
Defensive back, like you got to. It's like a patient game.
Right. Next thing you know, you're playing Vontez Burfict out there.
You have a perfect game, and they never say your name a single time.
Right, like so you kind of get to that point where you feel like you got to do something, and then you get out of control. You get out your zone that you were supposed to be in. So yeah, it can definitely get like that.
How do you get that notion? Because again, it's almost like two different things. I want to win so badly, that sense of urgency, but yet I still play within myself.
I think it goes back to the trust factor. Certainly in team sports,
Yeah.
You're trusting the other 10 guys to be doing their job. I'm going to do my job. I think it comes down to confidence, just to continue to play within yourself as well. But it's a hard thing. It's a natural thing. If you want it, that's a natural thing that comes up, and it's learning that self-control, and it's a million reps with your brothers next to you. And I think in the classroom too, it's just about knock out the assignment. You don't have to reach when you're grabbing at other things. Just knock out what you need to do it the best of your abilities, and control what you can control with it instead of going over the top.
Execute on what's in front of me today or this play right now, and then I'll worry about the next.
100%.
Boy, that's so hard because you just want to swing for the fences each time. I think that is one of the key things. Were you going to say something, Jalen?
Yeah, and I back to what Coach was just saying. I think it's good to like make those mistakes and like practice. Like, when you're working on something or you're like building a project or whatever, this ties in the classroom, work, or anything. When you're by yourself or just working on your thing, it's okay to like kind of take those chances and see if it works out for you or not.
Right.
But when like the lights come on, when that big time comes on, you kind of learn from that. So it's okay to take those chances, but like don't use it to where you get out of control. It's better when you're practicing, try it out. If you know it doesn't work for you,
right?
Then at that point, it's like, it's not for me, or this does work for me. Kind of thing.
Gotcha. So when I'm prepared enough, then I kind of know I got a better game plan kind of going into it. I gotcha. How do you, and again, probably a whole nother topic or a whole nother show, but that notion of like I make a mistake and I don't see it as critical failure, right? Because that permission to kind of try new things, it goes back to that innovation, is huge when we've got that underdog mentality. How do you give yourself permission to kind of go in, I'm going to try this something new, or maybe I make a mistake?
Yeah, I mean, luck is real. I really believe that. A lot of people get real lucky, but as Jay Reb was talking about too, for us in the football world, and I think athletics in general, but that's the practice. That's the rough draft time. That's where you can swing, try something, because then it's correctable. Or no, we're onto something here. Let's expand upon this. I think that's really where it fits. And as you were talking about as well, you always go back to that level of preparation. So if you can get yourself in a good position to be successful in your practice reps or your rough draft, whatever that you're working on, then you can really, be successful when the lights are on.
Gotcha. A little bit of that back to the wall notion too. Like, if I don't, if I got to come out swinging, I'm not so worried about making a mistake because what's the worst that can happen? I already think I'm going to go down, so I'm going to go down swinging through it. So there's a little bit of that mentality too. All right. The last thing that, feed off the energy of the crowd. Right? That's the other last kind of tip is feed off. Everybody loves an underdog.
Yep.
We all love the underdog, and that notion that probably more people are rooting for us than I think because we all love the underdog. Because remember that in the Bluffton game where people were.
Oh yeah.
Were you here when you guys won the Hammer, or were you down at Bluffton?
I think it was down at Bluffton.
I thought it was.
I was both.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, my freshman year we were here, and then
How into it was the crowd?
So they were
oh
mad.
big.
They were a little mad.
But yeah, I was there for at Bluffton too when we took it. Well, it was a
Did you
snow
feed
game,
off kind of
so
the-
we really couldn't
there
even
was-
see the
Did you
crowd.
feed off the negative energy of the crowd there as they're all kind of booing? And
Yeah.
Easy fight.
we won't talk about that. We're not going to talk about that.
That's when the Adrian crowd, that's the one where you guys were getting yelled at quite a bit. I mean, we all were, but
Yeah.
you guys were on the field. I remember Dan's
Oh,
getting
yeah.
get everybody calmed down.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that fits what fired us up. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it was not working well for them,
So
respectfully.
feeding off that energy of the crowd, I think, is huge. But translating that back into both the classroom and our personal lives, like, so who do I surround myself with? Who do I, kind of allow in to be my cheerleaders? It's that motivation to kind of keep me going. You guys kind of had that in your own kind of personal lives too, as you found those people that can kind of help give you some energy to kind of along the way.
I think it's more like you are who you surround yourselves with. So
Yeah.
If you pick to put yourself around other people who are lazy or don't want to get their work done, you're going to be just like them.
Going to kind of model some of that stuff. Absolutely.
Around people who want to strive to be better and strive high, you're going to be with those because they're going to want to bring you up with them and not bring you down.
Yep. So kind of thinking about who do I surround myself with? What kind of narrative? Those things that maybe I tell myself, but also other people tell me.
And it's kind of like surrounding yourself with other underdogs, almost like if you got guys with the same mentality as you or somebody that's not really looked upon, but you can kind of see them working, like if y'all work together, they can be proud of you too. I've had a couple like younger guys or high school guys, like in high school now, who are just working. They kind of look up to me, and I just tell them my underdog story, and that gives them extra motivation. So
Yep.
I definitely surrounded myself with some people that keep me going as well.
Gotcha. How do you support teammates, with that underdog kind of mentality?
Putting yourself in their shoes sometimes, and like, I can relate with them though, because they may see me now and think I've been this athlete, but it wasn't always like that for me. So you kind of just gotta push them, kind of like be that extra motivation for them almost.
Gotcha. Okay. Things that you found motivating in particular with teammates, or ways that maybe teammates have helped you?
I think sometimes, like, when you mess up, I think the best help you can get from somebody is them not saying anything. Like, sometimes when you're on the field, you obviously know you messed up, but you don't want to help somebody else. I feel like,
I'll ask for help when I need it, but please don't give me unsolicited advice. I gotcha. All right. Good call. All right. Should we take a bit of a pause and then come back with top five? All right, everybody. We're going to hit the pause button. We're going to come back with top 5 upsets in sports.
You got me nervous, Coach.
Why?
It's always going to be nervous.
Why?
It's always been like that.
All right.
And here we are back with our top 5 upsets this week.
All right, top 5 upsets. Who's going to go first?
I'll go first. This isn't, I wouldn't say this is an upset, but the Colts versus Saints Super Bowl. I wasn't a Saints fan at the time, but now I am, so.
Right.
Won, by the
Jumped
way.
on that bandwagon.
Saints won.
I jumped on the bandwagon. Breeze. Met him in person.
There you go.
That was a heartbreaker for me. I loved those Colts teams with Peyton Manning. So, I really thought they had a chance in it. Not so much against your Saints, huh?
Well, I wasn't a Colts fan back then, but
It was hard not to be a Peyton Manning fan back then. Those teams were so good. Marvin Harrison and
it's weird because that same year I actually met Drew Brees in person.
no
He
kidding.
signed my school shirt because we had to wear uniforms.
Okay.
So it was really weird, but
That's pretty cool, though. You
that
guys,
was really cool that I met him, though.
Yeah,
Like
that's
20 years later, son.
was he as nice in person as he seems?
Yeah, he's very quiet. He doesn't
Right.
seem like he talks much.
He just seems like a genuinely good guy, like easy to root for.
Oh, yeah. Now I root for him, but he don't play no more. He needs to come back.
Talk about an underdog story. You know his story?
I do not. I don't know his full story, though.
We went to Purdue, right?
Yep.
just up the road here. Went to Purdue, and then he went to San Diego. Like they drafted him. The Chargers drafted him, and then I think he hurt his shoulder, and they sent him off, and it was a big trade with Phillip Rivers might have been involved in that, and I don't think people expected him really to blow up, and sure enough, he did. He really went on one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. Yep. So talk about the underdog. All right, J. Red, who you got?
Well, since it's March Madness time,
it is March Madness.
I'm gonna revert back to that, but mine is Davidson.
Oh yeah,
versus North Carolina and Gonzaga.
Yep,
that's when babyface assassin came in. Now it's the greatest point guard of all time, Steph Curry.
I don't know about the greatest point guard of all time, but
I think he is.
He kind of he gave people a sneak preview of what he could do.
Yeah. He was going crazy, man. And like his story is kind of an underdog story too, because like, you know, that school, you didn't even think about that school.
No.
Somebody going
Davidson. Who's Davidson?
They draft, like, so I think him as a person is just a good story as well for people to look into, because his dad was in the NBA too.
Del Curry, right? Yes.
Curry, yeah. And like, you know, being an NBA son, you already got expectations on you, and you had a small school, and
I don't think anybody thought he would turn into the player that he was.
Yeah.
But
so,
not real big. How big is Steph?
6'2", 6'3".
Okay. Okay, that's a little bigger than I thought he was.
But compared to everybody else in the
right,
NBA,
now in the NBA, 6'6", 6'7" is normal.
I'm beyond hitting threes, like,
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's still doing it. To this day.
That was an exciting kind of tournament for Davidson. Yeah. All right, Coach. Biggest upset or favorite upset?
Sticking with college football, because that's what I know best. The biggest upset that I can think of is Appalachian State versus Michigan.
Oh, that made me giggle so much when that happened.
Yeah, I think it was 2007. Michigan was ranked in the top 5
yes.
going into the game, and Appalachian State was FCS back then, so they weren't even playing with the same amount of scholarships, nothing.
Right.
And it came and upset them in their house.
That was such a huge upset.
I hate to beat them.
And I think if you watch that game, all those things that we talked about today, right? Just hanging around, right? Executing the little plays, doing those little things.
Absolutely.
And then pretty soon you get momentum, and the next thing you know, they're tearing down the goalpost.
Yep.
So, all right, my favorite upset. I had to think about this long and hard because there's so many really good ones. And I'm old. The one that just, I don't know why, still sticks in my brain. It's old school, but it's Santa Clara versus Arizona. Arizona was like a 2 seed versus a 15. And that was back in the day. It was a little bit like Steph Curry, right? They had Steve Nash, and nobody knew who Steve Nash was. He's just a little guy and just raining threes all over the place, knocked off number 15 or number 2 Arizona. Blew up my bracket. I was devastated at the time, but fascinated by Steve Nash. And the next thing you know, the guy's awesome. So, all right. Anything else on the psychology of the underdog that you guys want to talk about? This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has. I mean, I guess we all do like little words of motivation. I guess. I mean, if you feel like an underdog, I mean,
we all felt like the underdog.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Yep.
Even as grown-ups, you may feel like an underdog. Whether it's your job or something. I mean, in the class, you may feel like an underdog because everybody doing good, you in a slump. I think you kind of can use it to your advantage because you kind of like got time to work on yourself, where somebody at a high doesn't even think about that because they at a high. So if you feel like an underdog, man, like just continue to work, and then once you achieve after that, you kind of look back on it and be grateful for it. And then I think that's good to be an underdog because you can like instill that knowledge into like somebody else too. Like you can help other people overcome their situations. So I feel like that's just.
I would agree. Like, just because the chips are down doesn't mean that it's hopeless, right? Because that's, as long as I'm believing in myself and I'm working the process, I can achieve great things. There you go. I think that's a good way to kind of send us off. We'll see you all back here next week. Listen in, be well. We'll see you next week, everybody.